bringing the EU 28 and perhaps soon the EU 27, depending on the Brexit, closer together fosters greater cooperation between all of us so that investors can raise capital, manage capital, and sell services associated to that capital more efficiently, whilst enjoying equivalent level of protection across the Union. This is the core of the EU's agenda for free and fair trade without any barriers, where an established regime for equivalence offers access as well for third country operators to EU markets in certain areas subject to equivalent regulatory and supervisory standards in the third country concerned, so our industry and their consumers to prosper having different and more diverse financial products and services also from third countries. Indeed, under the Capital Markets Union, the prospectus regulation has mobilized greater access to the financial markets for companies, and in particular the SMEs, small medium enterprises. Cyprus has made good progress since 2008 in fostering a great entrepreneurial ecosystem, and the number of successful business owners, some homegrown and some from overseas, is a testament of this progress. But the major challenge of the Cypriot SMEs right now is the continuing non-performing loans burden they face because of the economic crisis we had back in 2013. Alternative sources of financing are urgently required if we are to overcome what the European Commission has called our Achilles heel. Except from the fund industry that we have developed the last years, as you see from the first graph, as an alternative source of financing the economy through collective investments, the new regulation on prospectuses, which was adopted in June 2017 and must be fully harmonized in our national legislation until this July this year, is designed to cut red tape for companies seeking finance opportunities. In this context, in April 2019, the Public Offer Prospectus Law was amended, and Cyprus now exempts new issuers from having to publish a prospectus provided that the total consideration of each offer in the European Union is less than 5 million, calculated over a period of 12 months. And this is done, actually, to facilitate the SMEs raising the capital through an IPOs or ICOs without having extra cost. This is one area where the Capital Markets Union has shown what it can do where there is a political will. Don't forget that in 2018, back then, we adopted MiFID II, where also laid the groundwork for SME growth markets. The MiFID II rules, amongst other things, gives the opportunity to create a new category of trading venue which dedicated to smaller issuers of securities, the SME market. This allows firms to list in an exchange, MTF, without having high cost and burden when raising capital through a mini prospectuses, but also when announcing continuous obligations towards their investors in terms of minimum transparency and market abuse rules, but not, of course, on the expense of the investors. In February, however, there are more to do. Actually, in February 2019, a new package on the cross-border distribution of collective investment funds, specifically EUVECA, which are the venture capital funds and social entrepreneurship funds, was introduced to remove some of the burdensome requirements about setting up those funds vehicles and ultimately selling and marketing them in Europe. This is an important legislative development as it supports the continuing growth of the Cyprus funds industry. The new EU regulation will make the distribution of EUVECA and social entrepreneurship funds simple, quicker, and cheaper. They will do so by improving the transparency of national requirements, cutting red tape, and harmonizing diverging national rules, and this will provide investors with more choice and reduce their cost while safeguarding investors' protection. The greater ease of doing business is central to more proportionate and risk-sensitive rules for investment firms as well, which is another thematic priority under the Capital Markets Union. The legislative measure, which received political agreement at the beginning of this year, will introduce simpler and less burdensome prudential rules, the CRD rules, for non-systemic investment firms. We welcome this tone coming from the European Commission, whereby the focus is on a more balanced approach. Innovation, often using new technology, is powerful and can often be stifled by red tape, but on the other hand, can be a threat from over-regulation. But what I mentioned up to now is the carrot coming from CMU for driving growth, for incentivizing new ways of access of management distribution of capital. But let me turn for a moment to the stick. And what is the stick? One of the three pillars governing the Cyprus Market Union is a more efficient supervision of the EU's capital market. Part of liberalizing access to finance across borders is ensuring that this flow of capital is legitimate. In this vein, Cyprus is underway in transposing the 5th Anti-Money Laundering Directive, recently introduced in the EU level. Among other things, this creates a register of UBOs, of companies and trusts, to show their legitimate ownership, due diligence measures to monitor suspicious transactions involving high-risk countries, and perhaps of most interest of today's audience is the extension of AML regime for the first time to capture virtual currency exchanges, exchange providers, and electronic wallet providers. And this is for the first time done from the Europe, covering for the first time these issues. Our work in the Innovation Hub that we have launched back in September 2018, which I spoke at length this time last year in IF Expo, has reinforced our view that AML provisions must be applied to crypto assets as well and their related activities. In line with the Financial Action Task Force list of acceptable practices, CYSEC advises on gold-blading the 5th directive to bring additional activities into the scope beyond what the EU 5th directive outlines in order to tackle the AML risks in more comprehensive manner. The proposed regulation will catch further digital assets, including ICOs and blockchain trading, by defining the regulation as such. The exchange and transfer between virtual currencies and crypto assets, not only between virtual currencies and fiat money, the provision of crypto and digital-based financial services, and participation in financial service activities related to an issuer's offer or sale of crypto or a digital asset. The proactive measures we are taking to capture tomorrow's technology are part of Cyprus' broader role in fighting money laundering and financial crime. This is where proportionate regulation is so important in the realms of fintech innovation. On the one hand, we recognize the value in new technology based on crypto assets, including, say, the long-term applicability of blockchain to modern-day trade. On the other hand, we see proven AML and FTC risks on crypto assets themselves, which jeopardize not only investor protection, but the integrity and legitimacy of the market and the infrastructure which underpins it. The extreme volatility, as you have all seen in the latest years in the crypto assets, constitutes a significant risk which could result in investors losing the entire invested amount, especially if they have to do with retailers. So not only they are vulnerable to extreme volatility, but also susceptible to fraud, hacking, and the operation weaknesses of the crypto access exchanges themselves. Probably you all heard about the latest hacking of Binance Exchange, which is a global cryptocurrency exchange that provides a platform of trading maybe more than 100 cryptocurrencies. Unfortunately, the traders withdraw 7,000 Bitcoins worth about $40 million via a single transaction. We're watching those risks very, very closely. Moreover, CYSEC has drawn the attention to the fact that the ICOs, which probably is a big interest from many of you here, depending on how they are structured, they fall within the scope of the existing EU regulation, and therefore careful consideration should be given as to whether the firm's activities constitute regulated activities and not unregulated activities. In that case, the firms involved in ICOs, maybe tokenized securities or securitized assets, need to comply with the relevant legislation, including, for example, the Prospectus Directive I mentioned earlier, the MiFID Directive, MiFID II, you must be licensed to provide these services, and also fourth Anti-Money Laundering Directive, and very soon the fifth one. CYSEC participates in the joint working group of the government and the House of Representatives, which is responsible to explore the applications of distributed ledger technology, DLT, in different public sectors in the economy here in Cyprus by providing expertise. The task of this group is to present an action plan to the government in order to explore the possible applications of DLT, detailing the necessary operational planning required. We are working closely with the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Cyprus to assess these issues and risks in order to explore whether there is merit in putting in place a national legislation for specific asset classes that are not regulated, they are not financial instruments right now, that embrace fintech. Over the next 2 days, your discussions here, I'm sure, will often turn to the role of financial regulation in supervising new technology. A common question I receive in talking to market participants is how regulation can legitimize new financial products and services to allow firms to market, sell, and distribute them to more customers. My message to them is clear. We believe that appropriate and proportionate regulation can meet the demand for innovation by increasing consumer trust and confidence in those services and the businesses that provide them. Regulation is not here to stifle innovation. It is here to embrace it responsibly, though. Our key threshold is very simple. If innovation is proven to strengthen investors' protection, then it might well have a role to play in tomorrow's capital market. If I was to give you one message to carry through you in the next 2 days and even beyond, then as you were to adapt and create a new business model which embrace innovation, then you must have one stakeholder in the center of everything you do. And who is that? And this is the end investor and its protection. As the industry evolves, often very quickly, we are constantly monitoring the ways in which investors are put at risk by new products and services, with the example of crypto assets and crypto exchanges and AML risks, for example, and cybersecurity risks and many other risks. Our work with the Innovation Hub has reaffirmed the importance of installing the investor-first compliance culture even before firms reach the point of licensing. As many of you in the room contemplate a CIFS license or a fund or fund management license, in the future, a culture of good governance and strong compliance is fundamental. Our view, if it is installed from day one in the firms, then there is a guarantee of more positive investor outcomes. And this is the standard we must all pursue, and that is your home regulator, CYSEC, expects from you. As I close, I would like to thank you all for your kind attention and offer my thanks to the conference organizers for inviting me again here and provide and give an address. I know that under 1,000 people attended the first IF Expo when I was here in 2012. And last year, nearly, I think, 5,000 attendees passed through the door of IF Expo in Limassol. In some ways, the growth of the IF Expo is emblematic to the growth of the industry, if you've seen in the first graph. And the role and responsibilities we have as regulators of new and emerging technology providers is high. The developments under the Capital Markets Union hold a lot of promise in supporting this growth, and with a combination of measures to encourage innovation, but never at the expense, as I repeatedly said in my speech, of the consumers' protection. We look forward for the future with confidence. Thank you for hearing me.
Do we have time for a question? Time for questions? Any questions in the audience? Come on.
I said it very clear.
Just a second.
Hello, my name is Marcin Nowogorski. I'm from a Polish media company. I wanted to ask if this is true, because I heard this rumor that CYSEC regulated brokers can't advertise towards Polish clients anymore. Is that true, or?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. If you're talking about the CFDs, if you can advertise CFDs in Polish, it's because of the CFDs intervention measures that we have in Europe. That in order to advertise, you need to have specific risk warning in each of the advertisement for these complex instruments. It's not that you cannot advertise at all. It's just you need to follow some rules depending on the products that you provide in that you sell in the market. If they are very complex instruments, then the risk warning is a must to be in there.
Thank you.
Anyone else? One last question.
Hi, my name is Pavel from Trade4. We have a question regarding the RTS 27 and RTS 28 initiatives and what would be the future plans of CYSEC towards this type of regulation regarding the best execution. Anything going to be changing towards this direction or not in the near future?
You mean the RTS 20? You mean the RTS 28 and the rules, the new rules for best execution?
Yes.
We implement the new rules coming from MIFIR, right? And we already went supervision of different firms. This is here is my supervision team. They went on site visits for the RTS 28, 27. We have some results there coming to the board, and the firms must comply with these new developments. We gave some times of adjustment, but I think it's time for all to comply with the RTS 27, 28. There is not any more adjustment period.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? We have like 1 minute. Yes.
Hello, Dimitra. I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned that your supervisory staff is here. So I was wondering, is there enough people now at the CYSEC to support future growth of the industry and appropriately regulate the current one?
Thank you for the right question. We never have enough people because the market is evolving, the market is growing, and the complexity is even more bigger. So every time I ask with my budget through the Ministry of Finance to get more people, more expertise in the Securities Commission, and actually maybe we are one of the only organizations in the middle of crisis that we doubled our personnel right now, and we will triple it in the 2 years' time. So I think I got out the right messages to the government that we need support and we need to have expertise because, as you know, and as I said in the beginning, a lot of regulations are still coming and the existing ones are so complex that we need personnel, enough personnel with expertise to monitor the market. But okay. I'm confident that they will support me.
Thank you.
No further questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.